My wife spent our 10th anniversary dinner telling me I was the only man who had ever truly understood her. For nights later, I found a second phone charging behind her winter coats. I didn't confront her. I didn't even turn it on immediately. First, I photographed the phone exactly as I had found it, the angle of the charging cable, the position of the coats, the faint layer of dust around the charger but not beneath it. That small clean rectangle told me the phone had been moved recently. Used recently. Hidden carefully. I had been married to Laura for 10 years. I knew how she took her coffee, how she folded towels, and how she became unusually cheerful whenever she was avoiding a difficult conversation. But that night, standing inside our hall closet with a phone I had never seen before resting in my hand, I realized something unpleasant. Knowing someone's habits is not the same as knowing the person. And by the time I discovered who the phone belonged to, the affair was no longer the worst part of the story. My name is Michael Turner. I was 41 when this happened, working as an operations manager for a regional construction company. It wasn't glamorous work, but I liked systems. Schedules, budgets, materials, deadlines. A building project can become expensive when one person overlooks a small inconsistency. Apparently, so can a marriage. Laura and I had met 12 years earlier at a friend's backyard party. She worked in event planning then and had the rare ability to make chaotic people feel organized. I was the opposite. I made organized people feel slightly more organized. For reasons neither of us could fully explain, it worked. We bought a small house outside the city, renovated the kitchen ourselves, and developed the ordinary routines that make a life feel permanent. Sunday breakfast. Summer trips to the coast. Arguments about the thermostat. Real marriage. Not perfect marriage. Our 10th anniversary had been Laura's idea. She booked a table at the restaurant where we had celebrated our engagement. She wore the dark green dress I liked, ordered the dessert we always shared, and held my hand across the table. "I know I've been distracted lately," she said. "You've been busy. That's not an excuse." She looked directly into my eyes. "You're the only person who has ever really understood me, Michael." I believed her. That is the detail I kept returning to afterward. Not that she lied. That she knew exactly which truth to place beside the lie. I had noticed changes during the previous 6 months. Laura guarded her schedule more closely. She took calls outside. She had started keeping her phone face down during dinner. Each change had an explanation. A demanding client. A new vendor. A difficult contract. Her mother's health worries. When you trust someone, you don't ignore warning signs. You translate them into innocent language. That was what I had been doing. The night I found the second phone, Laura was upstairs taking a shower. My own charger had stopped working, so I opened the closet looking for the spare cable we kept in a storage box. The phone was behind 2 heavy coats, connected to a charger that ran behind a stack of shoes. It wasn't an old device. The screen had no scratches. The case was new. The battery icon showed 87%. Someone was maintaining it. I pressed the side button. The lock screen lit up. 38 unread messages. Most were from a contact saved as S, vendor. I heard the shower stop upstairs. I returned the phone to its exact position, lowered the coats, and walked into the kitchen. Laura came downstairs 10 minutes later, drying her hair with a towel. "You look strange," she said. "Long day." She opened the refrigerator. "Everything okay at work?" "Nothing I can't handle." She nodded, relieved by the ordinary answer. Then she kissed my cheek and began telling me about a corporate event she was planning. I listened carefully. Not because I cared about the event. Because for the first time in 10 years, I was comparing my wife's words to what her hands were doing. She kept rubbing the inside of her left wrist. Laura did that when she was nervous. The following evening, Laura said she needed to meet a vendor about an urgent scheduling problem. Which vendor? I asked. She was standing by the front door, searching through her purse. Stephen. The answer came too quickly. Do I know him? Why would you? She stopped searching. Just for a moment. Then she smiled. Sorry. It's been a difficult week. She kissed me and left at 7:12. I waited until her car disappeared, then opened the closet. The second phone was gone. That was useful information. It meant she carried it when meeting the person connected to it. Laura returned shortly after 10. By 11:30, she was asleep. At 12:08, I checked the closet. The phone was charging again. I tried our anniversary as the passcode. Incorrect. I tried Laura's birthday. Incorrect. Then I entered the date we first met. The phone opened. Some people become careless because they believe a secret object is secure simply because nobody knows it exists. There were now 41 unread messages. I opened the conversation with S, vendor. The messages went back nearly a year. At first, they looked professional. Delivery times. Venue addresses. Questions about invoices. Then the language changed. Private jokes appeared between business details. Complaints about spouses. Comments about meetings that had apparently lasted longer than planned. I did not need to read every line to understand what I was seeing. There were hotel confirmations. Photographs from restaurants Laura had never mentioned. A message asking whether Thursday's room was still available. Another promising that I would never suspect anything because I trusted her too much. I sat on the closet floor and read that sentence 3 times. Not because it was unclear. Because it was accurate. The contact remained S, vendor throughout the conversation. Laura never used the person's full name. But there were clues. The sender knew details about our anniversary trip. The sender had been inside our house. The sender referred to our kitchen renovation as Michael's 5-year construction project, a joke only a few friends had heard. One message bothered me more than the others. You two always did look perfect from across the room. Not, you look perfect. You two always did. This person had known us for years. Perhaps from the beginning. I copied the messages onto an encrypted drive and photographed the phone's folders, dates, and call log. I found no explicit name. Only an initial. S. Before returning the device, I noticed a photograph attached to an old message. It showed the corner of a restaurant table. 2 glasses. Laura's hand. Across from her was a man wearing a silver watch with a narrow black face. Nothing else was visible. I knew several men who wore watches like that. One of them had given a speech at our wedding. But suspicion is not proof. That was what I told myself as I returned the phone and adjusted the charging cable. Then I went downstairs, poured a glass of water, and waited for morning. I did not confront Laura. Not yet. An accusation would give her time to erase records, move money, and build a version of events in which my discovery became the real betrayal. I needed facts that existed outside the phone. For the next 4 weeks, I behaved normally. That was harder than it sounds. Laura asked about my day, and I answered. We ate dinner together. We watched a comedy on Friday night, and I laughed in the correct places. Meanwhile, I reviewed every financial record I was legally entitled to access. Joint bank statements. Shared credit card accounts. Tax documents. The household calendar. The first hotel charge appeared 11 months earlier. A boutique property downtown. Thursday evening. Laura had told me she was attending a vendor showcase. 3 weeks later, the same hotel appeared again under a vague billing description. Then again. Always Thursday. Always on evenings when Laura had a late event or supplier meeting. The amounts were small enough to disappear inside our monthly expenses. The payments had been spread across different cards and occasionally routed through her business account. Individually, none of them proved much. Together, they formed a pattern. Then I found the transfers. 4 payments had left our joint savings account over 8 months. The recipient was a small event services company called Silver Line Concepts. Total transferred, $22,000. Laura had described the payments as an investment in a reliable vendor. She told me the company supplied specialty lighting and temporary staff for large events. The company registration was publicly available. The listed owner was hidden behind a business address, but the filing included an old email contact. The email contained the initial S. I searched through invitations, invoices, and old messages Laura had forwarded to our shared household account. At 1:17 one morning, I found a vendor proposal from Silver Line. At the bottom was a digital signature. Samuel Reed. Sam had been my closest friend in college. He had introduced me to Laura. He had stood beside me at our wedding and delivered a speech about how obvious it had been, from the first evening, that Laura and I belonged together. He was also engaged to be married in 3 months. To a woman named Natalie, who believed Silver Line was finally becoming successful because of Sam's hard work. I opened the photograph of the restaurant table. Then I searched through pictures from Sam's engagement party. Silver watch. Black face. Same narrow clasp. My first reaction was anger. The second was doubt. A watch could be similar. A business transfer could be legitimate. Messages could be misread. So I looked for independent confirmation. Not through tracking devices. Not by following anyone. I checked records already connected to our household. Laura had entered a hotel address in our shared calendar once, probably by mistake. The entry had been deleted, but the confirmation email remained in the trash folder. The reservation was under Samuel Reed's name. 2 guests. Champagne package. Thursday. I closed the computer and sat in the dark kitchen. The refrigerator hummed behind me. Upstairs, Laura was sleeping in the room we had shared for 10 years. And 3 months earlier, Sam had sat at this same kitchen table drinking my coffee while discussing his wedding plans. He asked whether marriage became easier after the first decade. I had answered honestly. No. You just get better at knowing which problems matter. Apparently, I had misidentified the problem. My attorney's name was Patricia Hale. She listened without interrupting while I explained the second phone, the hotel records, and the transfers to Silver Line. When I finished, she closed her notebook. Do not touch accounts that are not legally yours, she said. Do not access private business systems. Do not threaten either of them. Preserve only the records you obtained through shared accounts or from the device as you found it. I understand. Good. Because your goal is not to punish your wife. Your goal is to protect yourself and document what happened. That sentence corrected something in me. Until then, a part of my mind had been quietly designing scenes. The perfect confrontation. The perfect sentence. The expression on Sam's face when he realized I knew. Patricia was reminding me that satisfaction and strategy were not the same thing. She reviewed the financial documents. The $22,000 did not automatically make me an owner of Sam's company. Real life is rarely that convenient. But if marital funds had been transferred without my knowledge for Laura's personal benefit, Patricia said we could seek repayment or have the amount considered during the property settlement. The hidden spending mattered. The false explanations mattered. The incomplete financial disclosures mattered most of all. The court will care more about missing money than moral speeches, Patricia said. Judges have heard every version of betrayal imaginable. Numbers are easier to verify. She recommended a forensic accountant. Within 2 weeks, the accountant found an additional account Laura had failed to include in the financial summary she prepared for our last mortgage application. The account had received income from several event contracts. It had also paid hotel charges, gifts, and travel expenses. Some transactions involved Silver Line. Others did not. That was the first reversal. I had assumed every secret centered on Sam. But the account suggested Laura had been moving business income for reasons that went beyond the affair. Patricia warned me not to jump to conclusions. "We know money was concealed," she said. "We don't yet know why all of it was concealed." That distinction mattered. A few days later, the forensic accountant found something else. Sam had not received the full $22,000. Nearly half had been transferred from Silver Line into another company less than 48 hours later. The second company belonged to a former client of Laura's. That meant one of two things. Either Sam and Laura were using his business to disguise other transactions. Or Sam was not the mastermind I had imagined. He might have been useful. Possibly willing. But not necessarily in control. For the first time, I considered that I had been focusing on the emotional betrayal because it was easier to understand than the financial one. An affair has familiar motives. Secret companies and redirected payments require a different kind of explanation. Patricia filed for divorce on a Monday morning. Laura was formally served at her office that afternoon. She called me 9 times. I did not answer until Patricia confirmed the paperwork had been delivered. When I finally picked up, Laura's voice was low and controlled. "You went through my phone. I found a phone hidden in our house. That doesn't give you the right. The divorce filing lists the financial records we need disclosed." Silence. The anger disappeared. "What records?" "The joint transfers. The secondary account. Payments involving Silver Line." Her breathing changed. "Not when I mentioned Sam. When I mentioned Silver Line." That reaction told me the money frightened her more than the affair. "Michael," she said, "you don't understand what you've started. That's possible. You could damage people who have nothing to do with our marriage. Then complete disclosure should protect them." She ended the call. 10 minutes later, Sam called. I let it go to voicemail. His message contained no apology. Only a request that I avoid making reckless accusations before hearing the full story. I saved the recording. Sam and Natalie's engagement celebration was scheduled for the following Saturday. Laura and I had agreed to help organize it months earlier. After the divorce filing, I decided not to attend. Patricia agreed. "You have nothing to gain from a public confrontation," she said. "Let the legal process do its work." I sent Natalie a short message saying Laura and I were dealing with a private family matter and I did not want to disrupt her evening. Natalie called immediately. "What happened?" "I can't discuss it properly yet." "Does this involve Sam?" I paused. She heard the answer in the silence. "Michael. I have documentation, but you should speak to Sam directly." I did. "He said Laura made a bad investment and you're accusing everyone because your marriage is failing." There it was. The prepared story. Laura had made an innocent business decision. I had become suspicious. The affair was either denied or reframed as emotional confusion. The hidden account was an accounting error. The second phone existed because Laura wanted privacy from a controlling husband. Each explanation contained enough truth to survive a casual question. Natalie asked me to attend the celebration. "I don't want a scene," she said. "I want to look at his face when you ask him." "That isn't a good reason." "No. But I also want witnesses if he tries to make me doubt what I'm hearing." I understood that. Patricia advised me to bring no confidential legal documents. Only records from the joint account and public business filings. So I went. Not to make an announcement. Not to embarrass anyone. I went because Sam had already begun explaining my marriage to our friends. The party was held at Amanda's house, Sam's sister, with around 30 guests. Laura arrived separately. She wore the dark green dress from our anniversary dinner. That choice might have been accidental. I doubted it. She greeted people calmly and stayed close to Sam. They never touched. They barely looked at each other. People often become unnaturally careful when they know they are being observed. Natalie found me near the back porch. He says there was no affair. I handed her one printed hotel confirmation. Nothing intimate. Nothing graphic. Just a reservation under Sam's name for 2 guests on a Thursday Laura had claimed to be working. Natalie read it. Then she folded the paper once. Ask him with me. We waited until most guests had moved outside for photographs. Natalie asked Sam, Laura, and me to step into Amanda's study. Amanda followed and closed the door. Sam looked irritated rather than frightened. That told me he still believed he could control the conversation. Natalie placed the hotel confirmation on the desk. Were you there with Laura? Sam looked at Laura. Less than a second. Long enough. This is being taken out of context, he said. What context makes it acceptable? Natalie asked. Laura stepped forward. Michael has been monitoring me for weeks. He's angry and building a story from business expenses. I had expected that. So had Patricia. I placed the public filing for Silver Line beside the hotel confirmation. Then I added copies of the 4 transfers from our joint savings account. I'm not asking either of you to explain the marriage here, I said. I'm asking why $22,000 left our household account, entered Sam's company, and partly moved into a third company. Sam's expression changed. This time, he looked at Laura with genuine surprise. You said that account was separate. Laura's head turned toward him. Don't. That single word did more than any speech could have done. Natalie looked between them. You knew about the money? I knew Laura was investing in the business, Sam said. Did you know it came from their joint savings? Sam did not answer. Laura turned toward me. You have no idea what those payments were for. Then provide the contracts. I don't have to prove my business decisions to you in front of these people. No, I said. You'll provide them through financial disclosure. The study door opened. Several guests stood in the hallway. Sam had raised his voice more than he realized. Amanda asked everyone to return outside. No dramatic announcement followed. No applause. No perfect final line. Just 4 adults standing in a quiet room while 2 carefully maintained stories stopped matching. Natalie removed her engagement ring. She placed it beside the hotel confirmation. I'm not deciding everything tonight, she told Sam. But I'm not marrying you while you're still explaining obvious facts as misunderstandings. Then she left. Laura looked at me as though I had caused the moment. Perhaps part of her truly believed that. People who hide damage often blame the person who turns on the light. The financial records arrived 3 weeks later. Incomplete at first. Then corrected after Patricia filed a formal request. The truth was less cinematic than I expected. That made it more believable. Laura had invested money in Silver Line because Sam's company was struggling. At first, the investment was genuine. Then their relationship became personal. Sam used the company to pay for hotels and private travel. Laura used it to move money without placing every charge directly on our statements. But the second company had nothing to do with the affair. It belonged to a client whose event contract had collapsed. Laura had promised refunds she could not afford. Rather than admit the loss to me or her business partners, she shifted money through Silver Line to cover it temporarily. Then she repeated the process. One lie required another transfer. One transfer required another explanation. By the time I found the phone, Laura was hiding an affair, a failing contract, unauthorized movement of marital funds, and a growing business debt. The secret life was not one secret. It was a structure. And like most unstable structures, it had started with a small compromise someone planned to repair later. Laura finally agreed to meet me with both attorneys present. She looked tired. Not defeated. Just tired. "I didn't plan any of this," she said. "I believe you." That answer surprised her. She looked up. "You do." "I don't think most people plan to destroy their lives. They make one decision they don't want examined, then protect it with another." Her attorney shifted in his chair. Laura looked down at her hands. "The first payment to Sam was a real investment. And the relationship?" "Later." "How much later?" 2 months. I nodded. There was no useful response to that. She told me Sam made her feel admired during a period when her business was failing. He believed in her ideas. He reassured her when she felt ashamed. I listened. Understanding a motive does not erase a choice. But refusing to understand it does not make you stronger either. "Why the second phone?" I asked. "Because the first time I deleted a message, I was terrified you'd recover it." "So you bought another device?" "Yes. And used the date we met as the passcode." Her eyes filled. "I don't know why I did that." "I did. People rarely divide their lives cleanly." Even inside the lie, Laura had wanted to remain connected to the person she believed she still was. That did not save our marriage. But it explained why betrayal can coexist with genuine affection. Contradiction does not make deception harmless. It only makes it human. The divorce took 9 months. There was no courtroom speech. Most divorces end in conference rooms, surrounded by paperwork and coffee nobody wants. The settlement accounted for the money moved from our joint savings, the hidden account, and the business debts connected to Laura's decisions. I did not become an owner of Silver Line. Instead, part of the transferred money was credited back to me through the division of property. Laura kept responsibility for several business obligations. I kept the house, but not because a judge wanted to reward me. I refinanced it in my name and gave up my claim to other assets. Real outcomes are usually less satisfying than fantasy and more useful than revenge. Sam and Natalie did not marry. Natalie never asked me for the full contents of the second phone. She said the hotel confirmation and Sam's first lie were enough. Silver Line remained open for several months, then closed after losing contracts and failing to resolve its debts. Sam blamed Laura. Laura blamed Sam. Eventually, both had to face the uncomfortable possibility that neither had been manipulated into every decision. My company learned nothing about the divorce because there was no reason it should. Laura's business partners, however, conducted their own review after the concealed contracts surfaced. She left the firm and later began working independently on smaller events. She called me once after everything was final. "I'm not asking you to forgive me," she said. "Good. I just need to know whether any of it was real." I looked around the kitchen we had renovated together. The uneven cabinet door. The mark on the floor from the year we dropped the refrigerator. 10 years of ordinary evidence. "Yes," I said. "That's why it mattered." She was quiet. Then she thanked me. It was the strangest thank you I had ever received. A year after I found the phone, I finally emptied the hall closet. Laura had taken most of her belongings after the settlement, but 2 winter coats remained behind. I removed them, cleaned the shelf, and found a pale rectangle on the wall where the charger had rested. For a moment, I was back on the closet floor, reading 41 messages while the person I trusted slept upstairs. Then the feeling passed. Not completely. Some experiences do not disappear. They become less authoritative. Thursday evenings were difficult for a while. Even after the divorce, I caught myself checking the time around 7, remembering hotel charges and calendar entries. Eventually, Thursday became an ordinary day again. That was the recovery nobody had warned me about. Not dramatic happiness. Ordinary time returning to you. I repaired the back porch Laura and I had postponed finishing for years. I did most of the work myself, slowly and badly at first, then slightly better. On the first evening after it was finished, I sat outside with a glass of iced tea and watched the light fade across the yard. My phone was inside the house. I had left it there without thinking. That small detail made me smile. For months, I had believed healing would mean trusting another person completely. I was wrong. Healing began when I stopped needing to inspect every silence. Laura thought I would never find the second phone. She misunderstood the real danger. Secrets are rarely destroyed by one dramatic mistake. They collapse because maintaining two lives requires hundreds of small decisions, and eventually, two of those decisions contradict each other. I found the phone. But the phone did not save me. Patience did. Documentation did. The people who refused to let me turn pain into revenge did. And eventually, distance did. The lesson was not that everyone hides something. The lesson was that trust should never require you to deny what is directly in front of you. But suspicion can become its own kind of prison if you carry it into every room afterward. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is look carefully. Sometimes it is leave calmly. And sometimes, after the truth has taken everything apart, the real victory is allowing an ordinary Thursday to become ordinary again.